Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I know I'm a new face here at Divine Light, though I popped in a couple times recently at this new location. Alva asked me to speak here today. My first reaction was yes, and that I'd love to. But then I started to get cold feet, very anxious. I must have changed my mind at least 3 times in this just last week. And I thought, I don't know if I'm ready. I've spent the summer in hibernation from most activities locally. But after one short conversation with Alva, the words, "I can't do it," didn't even have a chance to reach my lips. I realize I'm not the only one that has these kind of feelings. And by that I mean, when you're around Alva, the words "I can't do it" just seem to vanish. So here I am. This morning I'd like to talk to you about how or what brought me to the Divine Light Spiritual Foundation, and a bit about some of the growth I've experienced through the learning activities I've participated in. It's challenging where to decide where to start, because sometimes it feels like a Back to the Future movie, where the present moments connect with the past, and then they start to unfold into a potential new future. I didn't go looking for mediumship. It came looking for me. And it's been quite a process. Just over 6 years ago, I moved to Bowmanville. I originally grew up here in Oshawa, but had moved away after college to live in Toronto, and then later in San Diego, California. It was a full circle moment settling back in Durham region. But moving into our pretty house in Bowmanville wasn't exactly a settling experience. For example, before the boxes were even unpacked, I started getting impressions just out of the blue about a particular neighbor. I wasn't looking. It was rather personal. I didn't think I should be having these thoughts, and I didn't want them. I didn't know how I got them. I didn't know how I got the information, but the thought kept popping in my mind, just floating in and floating out. And so I thought, well, I'm going to try to relieve some of this recurring thought process, and I told my husband just to say it out loud, and it did diminish. I thought, well, maybe it's just the stress of the move. You know, it's a big move, and we're finally settled down back in the country, and we have a place to live, and there's been lots of things to do. And I just left it at that. But as time went on, that information turned out to be correct. And then moving on, about a year or two living in Bowmanville, I was diagnosed with an overactive thyroid condition called hypothyroid. And it brought with it excessive amounts of anxiety, like I needed more anxiety. And that was mostly fueled by the hormonal imbalance. But I also experienced uncharacteristic muscle weakness and pain all over my body. It was not pleasant at all. To reduce the pain, I went for body work, primarily shiatsu. And then unusual things started happening during shiatsu treatments. I would get impressions from the massage therapist, or I would sense there was someone else in the room besides the two of us. I wasn't sure what to make of it. I explored it a little bit myself. The thyroid condition was being treated with medication, and the anxiety was diminishing, and eventually the condition went into remission. But these insights, I'd like to call them, they continued. this time, one of the things that I did to calm myself and help rehabilitate my body was yoga. The class was wrapping up for the summer series, or the series was wrapping up for the summer, and I asked the yoga instructor if he knew any meditation classes in the area. With meditation, I thought, well, maybe I'll be able to get a handle on these insights and understand what they were. But he didn't know of any. So I eventually started one that same summer in Bowmanville, a meditation group. And when I started it, there was 3 people there, and they were me, myself, and I for the first class. In the second class, there was 1, and then it continued 2, 5, and got up to 12 and 15 sometimes. But back to that same yoga class when it was wrapping up, a woman came to me and asked me, or told me about a meditation class in Oshawa. And it met every Wednesday. And she said, "Are you interested in mediumship?" And I said, yeah, of course I am. I was eager to just meditate with the group, but I really didn't know exactly what mediumship was. So I started with that group every Wednesday, faithfully, and I noticed the presence around me, very similar in energy to what I was feeling in the massage therapy. And several clues, some of them quite clearly indicated that it was my departed father. For several weeks, he would come on the Wednesday night meditation, and he would give me messages or kind of spiritual hugs, energetic hugs, or sometimes I'd learn to interact with him and have short conversations with him to find out what he was doing, that kind of thing. It didn't freak me out or anything, but I just thought, well, at that point, he had been gone for nearly 40 years, and I thought, why now? It's been nearly 40 years. And the answer to that question, I have my ideas, but I'm not exactly sure right yet. It doesn't matter. But, so at this point in my story, what I'm trying to demonstrate is that when conditions are lined up a certain way, mediumship can just start unfolding, guided by, I feel, a higher power. Some people say that mediums are born and they are not made, or that you can't learn it. But I feel that everyone has an innate connection to spirit. Everyone has that spark of divine source from the Creator, the universe, God, or whatever term that you're most comfortable using. It has to be that way. We're born that way. Babies have that from the time that they were born, or probably even before. So learning that I had an inclination towards mediumship, all of a sudden my previous life made more sense. My previous life, I mean the present one, even though it feels like I have lived more than one, I mean the one in the present body right here. So after several months of Wednesday night meditation, I found a development class. And it ran 9 months, similar in duration to what they teach at Divine Light. And after I finished, it kind of left me with a lot of questions, more questions than answers. Sure, we did a lot of exercises, and I got more comfortable connecting with spirit from a mediumistic point of view and from a psychic point of view, even though at that point I didn't quite know the difference. Now I know. But I kind of was scratching my head and thinking, well, what do I do now? I kind of liked it, but I need more. So a travel opportunity came up to go to Scotland. And I was free. I had finished up a job and was free for the summer, so I said, sure, I'd love to go. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, Scotland, that's near England. And I was already taking a flight in that direction. It's kind of a long flight, 7 or 8 hours. maybe I should take a class at Arthur Findlay College. I learned about Arthur Findlay College a few months before. I was reading a book by John Holland. John Holland's a very active teaching medium in the U.S. And the college sounded like a wonderful place. It's a school for mediumship, psychic development, and spiritualism. Some people jokingly call it Hogwarts for mediumship. And in some ways, looking at the staircase and some of the secret passages through the main building, it sort of feels like the staircase didn't move. So from the moment I arrived there, it felt like I was home. All of a sudden, that part of my life was making sense. And in that 1 week course, which was quite intensive, long days of 9 to 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and then you socialize afterwards. Of course, you talk about the subject more, so it was an intensive experience, and I made lots of great new friends, and it felt like I learned several months' worth of information in just that 1 week. I was still early in my development, so I could adjust to some of the terminology that they used and the different aspects, the techniques that they used or theories that they had. So it was like a gobbling up of lots of more information and techniques. So I returned back to Canada after that trip, and I thought, well, what am I going to do now? I really like that. Kind of wears off after about a month, and then your heart starts to hurt. It's like, I wish I was there all the time. And I started finding other opportunities to learn in Southern Ontario. And sometimes the British teachers would come to Canada, and I would take courses with them here. And I was going to services like this Sunday service at different places, and I tried different places. And continued participating in spiritual groups, and eventually chairing a service or two, to kind of starting to get more comfortable speaking in front of people, which I always still get anxious about. And then platform work came a little bit, and or addresses. I read lots and lots of books, and found so much information online when I started looking and knew the right words to look for. I continued studying whenever I could to go to London. That's where Arthur Findlay College is, just outside of London. And take classes there whenever I could. And so I started to get more and more experience with their techniques and their definition of mediumship, or in particular, the standards of mediumship. And because of that, I started to get disappointed. And it was around the spring of this year, and I was frustrated. You know, some of the things I tried to share with other people where I was, and I don't know, maybe I didn't say it the right way, or they couldn't get it, or I'd see certain things happening, and I thought, oh, I can't believe that just happened. And so I thought, I'm just taking a break from everything. I had stopped my own meditation group for the summer break, and I didn't attend anything. I was taking a course in January, though, since January, with a tutor in England, and he offers video courses and then live online classroom sessions. And it's a very comprehensive course, and it's all about the mechanics of mediumship. Very thorough, and it was a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff and how things work. But there wasn't that much practice in this particular one, or any room or time for practice, because everybody's spread around the world. And so, as the summer was drawing to a close, I thought, I need to get ready now and start doing more practice and stop hiding and hibernating in my garden with the beautiful birds and the dogs, and start this up again, because I thought it showed up, and I don't think I should waste it. I don't know where it's going to go, but I have to continue on. And so initially, I think I got a call from Alva, just a message, and they telephone tag that she wanted me to do something for the church. And I thought, well, how did she get my number? And I thought, well, I haven't checked them. I haven't been there for a long time, and I heard that you had moved to this location. So I went online, and there was this great website, and it had the videos. Anyone who hasn't gone there, you have to go, because I could lurk there just anonymously, look at the videos, and see what people were talking about. And I could be my shy self, and you know, kind of judge whether I want to go there. And so I really appreciated the videos by Alva and by Truly and by Barbara. And I saw the different styles, and I thought, wow, that's sort of like, I'm a mix of some of those styles. I don't have to be like this, you know, snappy, fast-talking kind of person or speaker. I can just be myself and develop my own style of mediumship and speaking. So I came and showed up. First it was to a Wednesday meditation. That's a lucky night, I think. And that felt good. And it was nice to see that they incorporate a healing component to the meditation. And then I came later for a Sunday service. And there were several signs that came like right away. I was like, oh, this is different, or I'm in the right place. And that stood out. And I won't get into all of them, but it just felt like a good energy and a lively place. And one of the things that I did notice was in the hymn book. One of the things I had been complaining about that someone should create, and then when I turned to page 2, there was this green page here, and it's the do's and don'ts of mediumship. And I thought, thank God that someone put this together. And even though people may innocently do kind of different things, there's certain decorum or standards that are helpful, that you want to help people and not hurt them and not embarrass them. And I thought that was an amazing thing to have right there, front and center in the song. And then I started looking at the courses. I thought, well, I think I'd like to take another course. And I don't have the funds yet to travel to England, maybe next year. And the courses they offered over several months, and they were continuous, so every week, and that they were closed after a certain point of time. And what closed means, it's nothing snobby or exclusive. It just means that after a certain period of time, the enrollment is closed, and then the people that are in the class, they continue to develop themselves and as a group. And the energy builds, and the energy that you get from that group and knowing each other and building that, it's amazingly powerful. And that's one of the things that why Arthur Findlay College is very good about, even though it's in a week. That you develop, sometimes there's like 100 people in one of those weeks, and they divide them into smaller classes. And that you develop a rapport and a trust with the people in the group. So to me, that was a really good sign of standard. So I think, is that close to 20 minutes? Just a couple of things more. That as I start to learn about mediumship and the difference with psychic work and going to different services, that I think initially it's kind of about messages. If we find a difficult time in our life and we just want someone to just shed a little bit of light, to give you some information or some support from a loved one that has passed, it's about the messages, or can be. But there's a lot of growth that goes with that. You know, learning about mediumship led me to be interested more in spirituality, and in particular spiritualism, and even being more comfortable with the word, using the word God again. I grew up with a different religion, and then all of a sudden it was okay for me to say the word God, which seems kind of odd, but that, and it's a personal growth experience, and that with the spiritualism, and I also became interested in the pioneers that started it, the movement more recently, and even further back, the history, and it just kind of snowballed. But with all that, there's also, I'd like to share with you a term that they use in Britain, and it's called sitting in the power. And what this means is, and anyone can do this, whether you're interested in mediumship or not, but sitting in the power is a technique used to get a connection with your own spirit, your own soul. And after doing that, you expand your awareness and you connect with the spirit world. In the spirit world, we kind of say they're up there, but they're actually like everywhere. It's like just a different frequency, and whether you tune into that or not. And the sitting in the power helps to develop energy for maintaining connections and doing readings and doing platform work, giving messages. And what I like to suggest is you try this, just sitting in the power, connecting to yourself, and then blending with the world around you, with the universe, with God, with spirit, not for the purposes of communication, but just to feel that you're not alone, that you are connected, and that everyone is connected to this greater whole. Thank you.